tired and quietly overwhelmed. The Axian consul excused himself from the celebration and retreated to the private quarters reserved for his kind. Behind him, the palace echoed with laughter, music, and elegant waltzes meant to celebrate unity between worlds. He had heard enough joy for one night. "Already had your fill, uncle?" a young voice asked gently. The consul looked up to see his nephew standing near the balcony, youthful eyes bright with curiosity. He gestured toward the empty chair beside him. "May I?" "Yes," the old diplomat replied, easing himself down. "Please?" The nephew poured a warm drink into 2 cups, the steam rising slowly between them. The consul froze after the first sip. His pupils widened, his hands trembled. "This," he murmured. "Darling," the nephew said proudly. "A gift from a Terran delegation, supposedly one of their finest blends." The consul stared into the cup as if it were a relic from another lifetime. "I haven't tasted this in centuries," he said quietly. Concern crossed the young Axian's face. "Are you unwell?" "No," the consul replied, forcing a faint smile. "Just remembering." They sat in silence for a moment, stars drifting past the wide viewport. "You know," the nephew said carefully, "you've always seemed different from the other elders. As if part of you never returned from the stars." The consul exhaled slowly. "We still have time before anyone comes looking for me," he said. "Would you like to hear a story?" The nephew straightened instantly, setting his cup aside. "Yes, uncle." "Long before politics," the consul began, "before titles and negotiations, I was a wanderer. I left home too young to understand why restlessness felt like freedom." He took another sip of tea. "I was 62 when I first departed. I wanted distance from my clan, from expectations. I wanted to feel untethered." He smiled faintly at the memory. "For years, I drifted from system to system, famous planets, grand stations, everywhere. I nowhere. I saw wonders, yet felt nothing." The nephew listened closely, barely breathing. Then, the consul said, "I arrived at Earth." He paused. "What I found there deserves its own tale," he said. "But what mattered most was who I met." He lifted the cup again, steadying his voice. "Her name was Elena. She was human, 28 cycles old, recently finished with her studies, and thoroughly dissatisfied with the life planned for her. I met her in a small Terran cafe." The consul continued. "I was sitting alone, contemplating things best not spoken aloud. I must have looked utterly hollow. Without warning, she demanded I stop sulking," he said softly, "and insisted I drink with her." The nephew chuckled. "She ordered tea," the consul said. "Not alcohol. Tea, strong, fragrant, alive." The first sip, he explained, had cut through his despair like light through fog. "That," he said, "was the first time I tasted darling." They spoke for hours. She listened patiently as he spoke of immortality's boredom, of watching centuries pass without meaning. She listened, he said, as if my words mattered. They met again the next day, and the next. For a week, we shared tea and grievances, he said. About expectations. About disappointing families. Her parents, he explained, had wanted her to become a lawyer. She had chosen astrophysics instead. They disowned her, he said quietly. The nephew frowned. Humans can be harsh. The consul agreed. And yet, astonishingly kind. One day, he continued, I realized something. He looked at his nephew. For me, years passed like minutes. For her, they did not. He had wealth, ships, time. She had dreams. So I asked her, he said, if she wanted to leave. The nephew leaned forward, and she said yes. She didn't hesitate. They bought a modest exploration vessel. Not fast, not beautiful. She named it Odyssey, the consul said with a faint smile. After an ancient human tale about a long journey home. For decades, they traveled together mapping stars, studying nebulae, listening to the universe breathe. Sometimes others joined us, he said. But mostly, it was just the two of us. Time moved differently then. With her, he said, existence felt full. One day, the nephew asked the question he had been holding. Humans don't live as long as we do, he said. What happened to her? The consul's eyes glistened. One morning, he said, she was gone. While docked at a remote station, Eleanor took the ship and vanished. All she left behind, he said, was a single note attached to a tea sachet. I didn't want you to watch me fade. Remember me as I was. I searched for her, the consul said, for decades. He chased faint signals across the galaxy, past neutron stars and dead systems. Eventually, he found the Odyssey drifting powerless in the dark. Inside waited a final log. The consul's voice softened. She said she wasn't afraid. He said that she had lived the life she wanted, that she was grateful. Silence filled the room. All the discoveries attributed to me, the nephew said slowly, they were hers too. Yes, the consul replied. And mine, together. He smiled gently. She taught me to love discovery, he said. Not as distraction, but as purpose. What did you do after? The nephew asked. I brought her home, the consul said simply. Humans. He explained. Do not abandon their dead. I returned what I could to Earth, he said, and learned something remarkable. Her family had forgiven her. They waited, he said, until the end. The music from the palace swelled again. I will give the Odyssey to humanity, the consul said. Let her rest where she began. The nephew nodded, lighting a cigarette. One last question, uncle, he said. Yes? Is she why you never married? The consul lifted his cup, smiling behind the steam. Sure, he said softly. Why not?